Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate S&S. So, are you guys getting ready? Are you prepared for what's coming? Uh, I think it's important that people need to realize the hour that we're in. If you're not getting ready, if you're not getting your food set up, if you're not setting back water, if you're not setting back medical supplies, any types of preps that you're going to need, look around your house, see what you use on a daily basis, find out how much you use on a daily basis, and then figure out a way to start setting more back. That's what you need to be doing right now. I know prices are high, but it is very important that you get prepared. It is very important that you start stockpiling food. If you're going to store and you're seeing empty shelves, understand that is not going away. That is going to get worse. And I'm not talking about you walk in and every shelf in the store is empty. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about maybe it starts with this product, there's just none of it. And then suddenly there's never any of that product again. Determine what type of product it is. Look around and see what other types of products are made from that source or share a common ingredient. If you want to see that those are all starting to dwindle down, it's a very real deal that's coming to this country and around the world. We're being warned about it by the World Food Program. We're being warned about it by the G20. Even Biden is warning about it. So if Biden's warning about it, he finally got something, put in front of him that was right. Food supplies are going to start dwindling. We're already seeing it now. We're seeing where millions of chickens, millions of turkeys, and other types of flock birds and egg layer birds are being disposed of right now because of the bird flu. I think it's important that we realize whether it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. Look around and see what's going on. There are flocks being lost. All right, I happen to know farmers, and there are several farmers whose flocks have been lost. And they've followed every biosecurity that there was. They're not sure how the birds were contaminated. They don't know. So it sounds to me like there's been a little bit of gain of function to further boost this stuff up. I don't think we're seeing the end of it. Usually by the time summer's in swing, the bird flu kind of goes away because everyone has migrated and what's going to die has died. That doesn't seem to be what's happening right now. And understand, because of the longer winters they're having up north, those birds have not reached some of those states yet. So I've seen some comments on other videos where people are like, well, we've not had any bird flu in this area. And then the very next video that they've got a foot of snow. Well, I got news for you. They're not going to migrate where it's still snowing and is real cold. They're going to wait till it begins to warm up. Then those waterfowl will migrate into your state and start spreading this stuff around. Now, I do believe that it's real. I don't believe that it's a coincidence. I do believe it's gain of function. But that's just my opinion, guys. It doesn't matter whether I'm right on that part or not. The fact is, I see it every day here in this state. There's no chicken on the shelves. I know that. There's not as many eggs. I mean, used to, I walked in, I never thought of there being an egg shortage. It's not like when I grew up in North Carolina, they would call for snow and there was only a small section of eggs. We're talking to have a whole aisle, any kind of egg you can think of that you want to buy. There's nothing. Maybe it's not that bad in your states, but there's nothing at the stores. It's like, okay, so you have to realize this situation is going to get worse. So you can either start preparing and grow your own food, raise your own flocks, whatever you got to do, or you can sit back and say, well, it's going to get better, or even if it gets worse, they're going to take care of me. I see too many times where people have well, I'm just going to sit back and then God's going to take care of me scenario. But what they're really thinking is, if it gets that bad, they'll just do what they have to do, whether it's, go out and rob, steal, kill, destroy to get what they want, at which point, where their beliefs really land. Or they will go run to the government for whatever aid they need to get, which is going to come with a cost. That's where this is all leading up to, guys. It's all leading up to, there's going to be ways to figure out who it is that is following along with the agenda and those who are the troublemakers, is what it's going to come down to, unfortunately. But when are we going to get to that point? I don't know. Things can get a lot worse before it gets to that point. and things are going to get worse. This mentality of when are things getting back to normal? Which normal? They've been wondering that since, let's take it back as far as the 20s. Did we look anything like society in the 1920s? Do we look anything like society from the 30s or the 40s or the 50s or the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s? Do we look like society from the year 2000? No, we don't. We don't even look like society from 2020. Look at the changes that have happened just in one administration that's not even over yet. Look at the major changes that have happened in our world. So look at what's happened in our country. Look at where we went from energy independent to energy dependent on other people, on other nations. Nations that this administration originally was saying was the greatest threat to American democracy ever, and then they signed fuel deals with. So it's up to you to decide, are you going to continue to follow their path, or are you going to knuckle down and figure out a plan? We can sit around and we can talk about excuses all we want. I cannot tell you what to do in your situation. I don't know your situation. I don't know what kind of connections you have with other people. But I can tell you that me personally, if it come down to where I had absolutely no other option at all, I would take to a national forest. But I have the skill set to do that. Now, understand that's a hard life. That is not you're sitting back and it's like, without a paddle type stuff, living in a freaking tree, eating berries. That's not going to be it, guys. But you will have to get prepared for that type of living if that is your final backup plan, learning survival skills and things like that. But there's other avenues you can take. You don't have to go live with the bears and the wolves. You can simply go nomadic the way many people are doing today. The homeless people that are out there today are doing that. When it comes down to it, I have a feeling that it's going to be a lot of people learning from the ones who've been living that life already. I mean, there's people that have been homeless for years. They don't do shelters and stuff. They figure out, man, well, we go to this area because it's warmer at this season. We go over here because it's not as hot during that season. That's the fact of it. And we may have to go to a nomadic lifestyle at some point. But until that happens, you can still be prepping and getting ready for the hard times that are going to come before that part of society completely collapses. There's a day that's going to be coming where either you will have to leave the towns and the cities, or you will have to follow along with what their directives that they give. And if you don't, they're going to have a response for that. And it's very easy to find a response for that. Just open your Bibles. So that's what's coming. People need to understand the reality of it. There are so many people that seem to have this mentality that they're going to one man stand against the entire world. It says if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So what sword is it that they're talking about? The sword that proceeds from the mouth of God? Could be. But if you're being persecuted for your beliefs in the Lord, you don't strike back in anger at all. In fact, one of the disciples was condemned for that when he struck off a man's ear when they came for the Lord. So you need to understand that the reality we live in, we're seeing the fulfillment of things that have been coming since the creation, things that have been promised. And for those of us who believe, we're seeing an end to the sinful age that we've had to endure in our lives. And eventually it will be the end of all sin for all time, which is where we're headed to. So while part of the world rejoices and part of the world will be mourning, I find myself, one hand, it'll be nice to see my kids again. On the other hand, there's still family members and friends I know that have not made that commitment yet. And I'm hoping that they will. That's just the reality of it. And you can share with them. What you don't do is just keep shoving it on them. So you need to understand the hour in which we live in, guys. And are you prepared for it? Are you prepared if what you believe, and I'm not talking about the fundamental of salvation, because that is the same for all believers. I'm talking about the way you interpret prophecy? What if your interpretation is wrong? What if your interpretation of, oh, we're not going to see any of this? Stop, step back, look around. You don't see what's happening in society today. You don't see how it has escalated just in the last couple years. You don't see how tomorrow you can wake up and at the flip of a switch, we're back to ration food from the government. It's happened once before. What makes you think you're not going to see it now? The people during the Depression seen it. World War II, they seen it. What makes you think that you are not going to have to go through the trials of life and have tribulation show up in your life? There is a difference between living a life that has trials and tribulations and then the great tribulation period, which is not for the church. We all at some point are going to reach a point. If you've not reached that point, understand it's coming, where you're going to reach the bottom rung, the bottom of the barrel, and you're going to have to either sit there in the filth, join in with the filth, or look up. And that's where your source of strength is going to be. And there's going to be a lot that turn because they don't even truly believe what they say they're going to believe. And that's the fact. I've seen so many people before, they talk great stuff, and then when just something as simple as a job loss hits, they commit acts, whether it be theft or stuff. Sometimes they end their own lives. Why? It goes a long way to what it is that you believe. The easy option is to opt out, but it's those who endure till the end. That's who God's looking for. He says that. So my suggestion, prep the best way you can. Buy your food, buy your supplies, get as much medicine as you possibly can, and be prepared, because things are fixing to get really hairy in this country, guys. We're not seeing the full blossom of this stuff that's happening over in Europe right now. We're not seeing the full effect of how that's going to affect our country right now. We've seen the riots here just within the past few years and burning down cities and attacking families on the street, attacking parents in front of their kids and things like that. That is the lawless that we're warned about in the Bible. Do you think that they have went away and that they've changed their minds? They're waiting for the very next opportunity to jump out and to show themselves and to attack again. What do you think is going to happen when the food sources start running out? They already believe that there is a social injustice directly at them. They didn't care about you or your safety then. Do you think they're going to care about it now? No, they're not. Did the government help with them cities and stuff? Well, we had a president who tried, and these people were like, oh no, you keep the National Guard out of this state. And then they complained because Trump didn't do enough to protect the state. You know, Donald Trump, for all his faults, at least he seems, at least at the surface, to care about the country. I'm not going to go so far as to say what his status is, whether he's saved or unsaved or anything like that. That's not for me to decide. What I do look at is when he was in office, he was putting this country and its people first. So if you're doing that and the people are rejoicing, then you have a good leader. But when you have somebody up there who's bad, people are constantly mourning. And it doesn't matter what they say on national news. People are mourning their decision to vote in this guy that we have now, to vote Joe Biden in. They're regretting that decision. Whether they're telling people they're regretting it or not, they're regretting it. They're regretting that this guy is in office, but they're not going to let you know it because they can't do wrong. So what is the difference between a sinner saved by grace and a sinner or an unbeliever? We admit our faults. We confess our sins. We ask for forgiveness for those sins. You know, we admit that we are imperfect. So does it surprise you that no one is wanting to take responsibility for what the heck is happening in the country right now? Oh, it's easier to blame Putin. It's easier to blame Trump. It's easier to blame anybody but the one that's up there. So, and even that, The guy has cognitive decline. There are doctors that are coming out and saying he's showing all the signs of advanced dementia. The left, like, oh, we don't care. At least he ain't the orange man. That's all that matters, guys. So, but anyway, so I just want to take a moment to kind of put this video out, guys. We're going to try to get some more content with the chickens, and I want to do some fishing and stuff now that we got some nice days coming in. But I appreciate everyone that has liked the videos and subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you're seeing this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. It's not going to cost you anything to subscribe, but you may not like all the content, but you might like some of the content. And it's going to give you those notifications. So everyone have a wonderful day.